So today we are going to discuss bass harvest, proper bass harvest. So I'm going to show you a few fish, how we like to manage bass, how we like to grow them, and what they should look like and possibly shouldn't look like. So let's dig in here. Let me get one of these sisters out of here. Look at this. Look how beautiful she is. She's nice and rounded on her belly. When we hold her up, look at that. Beautiful fish. Let's see here. Let's look at another girl. Now listen, we're gonna pull her out, and I want you to notice, this is one we'll talk about. She's a little bit slender for my liking. Now her relative weight, and we'll talk about relative weight, is probably around 100%, but for this lake, I would like to see her more rounded out. And yeah, I'm calling her a female, and no, I'm not being sexist. She's a female, and we know for sure she's a female because we actually gendered every fish in this all-female bass lake. And you ask how we gender fish, well, that's another What It Is Wednesday. That won't be this What It Is Wednesday. And so when we're looking at these fish, we want to make sure that they're big-bellied babes. That's what they got to be, is big-bellied babes. And actually, in a recent survey, 7 out of 10 buck bass said they preferred big-bellied babes. They didn't. It's actually 10 out of 10. But hold on. What we really look for is something like this. Oh my. She is unbelievably fat. And what's funny about this is she's not even eggy right now. She has no eggs, so I can't imagine. This fish is like probably 160 relative weight. She's very, very fat. Beautiful. The weight of a bass is what it weighs compared to what it should weigh, kind of like the body mass index for people. But what we look for in bass is extremely obese fish. So a 16-inch bass should weigh 2.2 pounds if it's at 100% of what it should weigh. Now, obviously, if we have a fish that's about 1.8 pounds, 1.6, 1.7, something in that range, it's not doing what it needs to. It is not where it should be weight-wise, so we probably take that fish out of the lake. We take a 16-inch fish that's, say, 3 pounds, and it's sitting at about 150% relative weight. She is doing what she needs to do. She's foraging properly. She is a predator. She's a man-eater. So that's a fish that we would leave in there. So the fish we saw earlier, which was that small one with the big belly, she was at about 160% relative weight. That is the perfect type of fish to leave in your lake. She's doing everything she should to continue to grow and be a monster. So when we're harvesting fish, what we do is we want to look at the size structure of the bass and the overall size of certain classes of bass. So if we see that we have a lot of fish that are stocking up between 12 and 16 inches, we'll really need to focus on removing fish out of that slot. Now, if we want to take it a step further and make sure that we're growing the fattest bass possible, what we do is when we see fish in that class, when we see fish like this that are in that slot that may be the length we're wanting to take out, we're not going to take her out. Her relative weight is very, very good, so we're going to leave her in even if she is in that range that needs to come out. So the two charts that I have at the end of this presentation are two different lakes that we have electrofished. One is the lake that we were looking at that is the all-female bass lake, and as you can see, all of the numbers are really, really healthy fish. Everything is over 100% relative weight except for one fish, and it's about 99, which isn't an unhealthy fish, but for that lake, it is a fish we would take out. On the other chart that you're looking at, it is a typical lake that we see. All of the fish are nearly 13 to 16 inches in length, a lake that has not been harvested properly. So what we look at in that chart, there are fish that are doing really well, over 100% relative weight, and a lot of fish that are very poor, down to about 76% relative weight. So if we're taking out that group of fish, that size class of fish, we would leave the bigger fish, the ones that have really good relative weights, and we would remove all of the ones that are poor, down in that 70 to 80 to 90% relative weight range. That's how you really focus in on what you want to manage and making sure you're leaving the fish that are doing really well and taking out the ones that are just taking up space. But when we're talking about a regular reproducing lake, you're probably not going to harvest anything less than about 30 pounds of bass per acre per year. But you've got to harvest the right length bass, and you want to make sure that you're leaving in those big fat female bass that have those big bellies so that they can continue to do their thing genetically. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and they should get the largest. Incredible way to manage. Even if you have a big old fat female that is like a you know, Dwayne the Rock Johnson fish, that size fish, you know, this one, I mean, she'll get bigger and bigger. If she's fat, you leave her in. Or you might have what I just showed you a minute ago. Where'd she go? You may have a shorter, you know, Kevin Hart size fish. But if it's a short Kevin Hart fish, but she's big and fat, you leave her in there. So that's What It Is Wednesday. That's our first episode in the series, and I may not ever do another one, so it may not actually be a series, but What It Is Wednesday.
My weapons of mass destruction. Tell Obama come find me, cause I ain't hiding my weapons of mass destruction. There he is. Got him.